World War was the greatest tragedy of human history, a global conflict that changed the course of our planet forever. From 1914 to 1918, and then from 1939 to 1945, two world wars tore nations apart, destroyed empires, and reshaped the world we live in today. But how did it all begin? The story starts in 1914, in the heart of Europe. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria by a Serbian nationalist triggered a chain reaction. Alliances, rivalries, and ambitions of great powers turned one death into a global war. On one side stood the Allied powers, Britain, France, Russia, and later the United States. On the other side stood the Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. The First World War was fought in muddy trenches, under rain and blood. New weapons like machine guns, poison gas, and tanks turned the battlefield into a hellish landscape. Millions of young men were slaughtered for inches of land. By 1918, the Central Powers collapsed. The Treaty of Versailles ended the war but planted the seeds of another. Germany was humiliated, its economy destroyed, and its people filled with anger and despair. This anger gave rise to Adolf Hitler, a man who promised to restore German pride. His vision of power, hatred, and domination would ignite the Second World War. In 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, and once again the world plunged into darkness. This time the war was even deadlier. Blitzkrieg, lightning war, brought Europe to its knees. France fell, Britain stood alone, and the skies of London burned with German bombs. But the world refused to surrender. Across the seas, the United States watched until December 7, 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The sleeping giant awakened. The Allies, America, Britain, the Soviet Union, and others united against the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan. The war spread across continents, from the deserts of Africa to the islands of the Pacific. Battles like Stalingrad, Normandy, and Midway changed the tide. Soldiers fought not just for survival but for freedom. Behind the front lines, civilians suffered, cities destroyed, families torn apart, millions displaced. Then came the darkest chapter, the Holocaust. Hitler's Nazi regime carried out the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews and millions of others. It was not just war, it was genocide, a nightmare beyond imagination. In 1945, as Allied forces closed in, Hitler's empire crumbled. The Soviet army stormed Berlin, and Hitler took his own life in his bunker. Germany surrendered. In the Pacific, Japan refused to yield until the world witnessed a new horror, the atomic bomb. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were obliterated, and with their destruction, World War II finally ended. The world had changed forever. More than 80 million people were dead. Cities lay in ruins. The United Nations was formed to prevent such a catastrophe from ever happening again. The US and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, beginning the Cold War, a silent, tense standoff between East and West. Empires that had ruled for centuries fell. Colonies demanded freedom. The map of the world was redrawn. Technology advanced faster than ever before. Nuclear weapons, radar, jets, computers, all born from war. But the scars of those years never truly healed. The two world wars taught humanity a painful lesson. When greed, power, and hate rule, no one wins. Every soldier lost, every innocent killed, every city destroyed, was a reminder that peace is fragile and precious. From the trenches of France to the ashes of Hiroshima, the world learned that war leaves only sorrow behind. Yet even today, the echoes of those wars shape our politics, our borders, and our fears. The world we live in was forged in that fire. 2 wars, 1 century, countless lives lost, but one message that will echo forever. Peace is the true victory. This was the story of the world wars, the wars that ended the old world and began the new.